大家好, I'm Nathan Rich, aka 火锅大王. Today, I want to talk to you about the doctor that's died in China recently. To my English-speaking friends, you can call him Dr. Li. Dr. Li's death has started a lot of online conversations, a lot of emotions are coming out of people, and there's a lot of opinions. And I just kind of wanted to weigh in with my perspective on things and share how I feel about it. So the situation is a little bit complicated and it's pretty sad. I think everybody recognizes that. If we look at the timeline, we can actually see some interesting details. On the 30th of December, he posted to a WeChat group telling some of his friends, who were mostly also medical professionals, that there had been a SARS-like disease detected, take care and take precautions and that kind of thing. But what he didn't know at the time was that there was already an investigation by the Wuhan CDC. This sort of complicates things. A few days later, he was not arrested, but was instead detained and asked to sign a piece of paper that essentially said, well, you need to admit that you did this and promise not to do it again. And then he was sent back to work. And he later went to work on the front lines in Hubei. On the 10th of January, he started exhibiting symptoms. And just recently, he passed away. And there's something dark that people don't really realize when they talk about this, which is that when he was in that WeChat group talking to his friends, he was quite possibly already infected by the virus, because you can go for up to 2 weeks without symptoms. So that's something I haven't heard talked about a lot. There's been a lot of grief online. There's been a lot of anger and frustration, and that's definitely understandable. But I do want to clear up a few things about Dr. Li. He didn't know there was an investigation. So from his point of view, was he doing the thing that seems honorable, seems the right thing to do? Well, that's a question for you, but I can definitely see that point of view. I can definitely see that he's trying to help people, he's trying to get the word out. He did do what he thought was right at the time. I do believe that. From a personal point of view, that seems like a good thing to do. From an investigation point of view, however, that's a risky, dangerous thing to do. If you're in a team of people that's investigating a disease and then you find out that somebody is telling people in a WeChat group, here's the conclusion of this investigation already, even though the investigation is not done, definitely that can be dangerous to the investigation and to other things. In late January, the Chinese government issued a statement that essentially acquitted Dr. Li and other doctors who had been questioned for spreading information. So that's the government basically saying, we made a mistake silencing these guys. They also said, had people listened to the advice and worn masks and been more cautious, then perhaps the situation would be better now. But they know something that they're not telling you. And I know something, and I'm going to tell you now. The thing is, even though they're saying that now, personally, I still think that right or wrong, it did make sense what they did. It doesn't seem surprising to me. Suppose that everybody did listen to him. He said, there's this new virus, and everyone listened. It went out on the media and everyone heard it. They could have worn masks and gloves, visors, and they could have gone about their lives and been a bit safer. But what's equally likely, or maybe even more likely, is that they would have fled the province. We know that people were coming in and out of the area this entire time. So we know that was already happening. The other day I saw a video of some people in Wuhan who were being interviewed by Western media. And one of them said, well, I don't really mind the quarantine. I just wish they had given us more notice than just one evening. And the first thing I thought was, well, of course they didn't give you more notice because everyone would just leave, which actually we can find many cases of people leaving. Chinese people, foreigners, people trying to get around the virus detection. So we absolutely know that people will try to flee, which again, on a personal level, makes sense. But when I take a look at this situation, what I see is, yes, people could have listened and they could have been more safe, but equally as likely, or maybe even more likely, people would have fled and the disease may have spread even faster, even further. The government probably won't say that because they've already dropped the case. But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that even though he may have made the moral choice for himself as an individual, as a country, as an investigation happening in that country, I can definitely understand why he would be silenced, especially in this type of national security type of issue. The situation is just not as cut and dry as people want it to be. Did he feel like he was doing the right thing? definitely, in that he was trying to warn his friends, and that's compassionate and that's caring, and that's what we expect from a doctor. I've been working on a timeline of the new coronavirus. In a future video, I'm going to go through that timeline and we're going to talk about what may have been mistakes, what could have been done faster or better. Had people listened to him, maybe lives would have been saved, but maybe the situation would have been much, much worse. So that's something to think about. It is good that people have focused on this doctor's case. When I think about Dr. Li, I do think he was definitely a hero, at least as far as he was a doctor and he was trying to do the right thing. But at the same time, I do understand why even a hero needs to let an investigation finish before the experts have a consensus on what's happening. I saw another video recently talking about a lot of people online, their sort of faith in the system, their trust level with the government, with doctors. There's been some erosion there. Some people feel like they've been betrayed or like that doctor was betrayed. I understand. I do understand what you're saying. It definitely can seem that way. When I look at the facts, to me, it doesn't seem like he was betrayed, and it doesn't seem like a guarantee that had we listened to him, everything would be much better today. But we don't know. I could be wrong about that. We're never going to know. If people have issue with the system, from my point of view, now is not the time to get into that. Now is the time for the system to be strong, well supported, getting people healed, getting hospitals running, getting nurses and doctors all the supplies and medicine that they need, saving lives. That's the #1 priority, containment and saving lives. This moment, now, is not the time to bring up any kind of distraction from helping those people. And that's my only request. Let's talk about that after the disease is contained, after the cases start going down. This disease is not pretty. It's not something that you can risk spreading. That means if somebody needs to be silenced while you figure out exactly what's happening so that there's not a panic and people flee everywhere and spread it immediately to the entire country, if that's what it takes, then that's what should be done. But that doesn't mean that I think he's done something wrong. And to everyone who's using this tragic death for political gain, why is now the time that you think political games should be being played with China? Everybody is trying to stick together and get through this very, very difficult time. Is now the time really that you should be kicking China? It's very revealing to see who goes after China in this time. There are countries and representatives and people and organizations who have really vowed their support for China in this time of need. And there are other people and countries who have really tried to distance themselves from China. And I think that that is just very, very revealing as to what type of organizations and people those are. We all need to support all those other cases that still have a chance. These doctors need to know that everyone is supporting them. Everyone who's working on these cases need to know that they have the country behind them. Dr. Li believed in something, and that was caring for patients and saving lives. So we need to support those people who are caring for patients and saving lives. We all have to remember that there are still people sick. There are still people dying. A lot more than just him. And so we need to continue supporting the system that is supporting these people. Otherwise, those people are going to be in real trouble. And to the family of Dr. Li, who I know are also in trouble, we're all hoping that you get better. And we thank you for everything that you've done to help with this disease.